connection to something.
Now, Tasha, your reaction to Stewart Rhodes testifying today?
It's what I thought. He pled the fifth mostly, and then it appears he talked about himself a lot as well. The founding of the org. He did not talk a lot about, from what I can tell, anything that happened in the last year and a half or so. He sort of pled the fifth on that and ducked out.
And I do want to talk with you about the founding of the org, but first, what evidence do you think the feds might have on him?
Well, he certainly planned all this. He certainly is behind all of this. What I don't know is, are they able to make the connection to something bigger? Did he have a go-ahead from someone else? Why did he think that this was okay for him to do, that he thought he might get away with this? Is there a larger connection? I don't know. But I think they certainly have a great case that he planned this. He planned to disrupt everything in order to, convince Trump to declare the Insurrection Act. They would come in, everything would just be chaos. And somewhere in there, Oath Keepers would be placed in some, basically brown shirts for Trump, I think, is what the plan was.
You tweeted out that he dug escape tunnels in your backyard. Tell me more. Why did he do that?
Constant fear of the feds. Now, this photo here is not of the actual escape tunnels. This was something that got pulled from my blog and passed around a lot online. The actual escape tunnels were actually considerably more elaborate than that. They were long enough that the kids used to play in them and call to each other through them. And at the end of the escape tunnel, the eventual plan was they would lead up to a logging road out in the national forest behind the house that we lived in. There was an unregistered car that would be waiting. And then eventually we moved from there into another house in the middle of the woods, and he did something similar there, planned to booby trap the front of the property with razor wire. Another unregistered car would be waiting for a different setup and a different plan. But it was our whole lives. Our whole lives were about his wanting to escape the feds. Even before Bundy Ranch, I never even knew what it was he was afraid of until he started creating that as a reality. And eventually, yes, I think maybe they were wanting to come after them, and with good reason. But that was our whole lives.
Tasha, you told the LA Times last year that you originally envisioned the Oath Keepers as a, quote, a cigar club of like-minded libertarians. What changed?
I think it never really changed for him in his mind. I think the long goal all the time was to do something like what it became. I think the libertarian side of things, the sort of left-leaning libertarian, anything goes side of things, that was a pitch that he gave because there was a very large Ron Paul movement at the time. There was a lot of money, there was a lot of energy in the Ron Paul movement, and I think he wanted to absorb that. And eventually later he morphed a little more to the right and a little more to the right. And eventually, he's following Trump and anything Trump says and does. And I think that was actually his plan all along, and that I was extraordinarily naive.
Tasha, I hear you talk about this very coolly, very calmly. In court documents, it's noted that you testified you fear for your safety and the safety of your 6 children should he be released, that he would often brandish firearms in the family home and would physically abuse his children. Tell me more about these claims.
He would often brandish a firearm. He's a lawyer, so he's always very aware of being watched. He was afraid of being caught with what he was doing, so he would never say, I'm going to shoot you. But he would wave a loaded gun around, chambered with his finger on the trigger, all over the room, and eventually say, I'm doing this because I'm suicidal. But this is how he would control us, and this was how he would say, you're not leaving the house. If you try to leave the house, if you try to go to the store, I am going to kill myself because you're just so terrible. You're not doing what I say. You're not helping me enough. And this is something that happened now and then, once a year, or, trying to shoot the dog or something like that. But after Bundy Ranch, I don't know what happened, but he had a real even worse mental spiral than he already had before that. And this was every week. And I didn't know how we were going to get out of it. I just didn't know. He seemed to be all powerful to me at the time. He seemed to know everyone. He seemed to have friends in the police department and in the legal sphere. And he's a Yale Law graduate, and I'm just me. And he made it clear that he would try to stop me from being able to see the kids, that he would have full custody of the kids if I ever tried to leave. And the threat of that is what kept me as long, in that relationship. The constant fear. It eventually took 2 years of planning to get out when we did.
Tasha Adams, thank you for your time. We're going to be right back.